I trusted my husband with everything, until the day I found a hotel receipt in our shared car. I wasn't snooping. That's what I kept repeating to myself the moment I found it. The tiny, glossy piece of paper folded in half, wedged inside our glove compartment. I was looking for the car insurance papers, something I always left to Eric. But that morning he'd taken my car instead of his, left in a rush and forgot to replace the folder in the glove box. That's when I saw it. A hotel receipt, dated last Friday. 2 nights, 1 king-size bed, 2 guests. The world didn't collapse all at once. It just paused. I stared at the paper like it was written in another language, like it couldn't possibly belong to us. Not to me, not to my husband, not to the man who'd held my hair back when I had food poisoning, who painted our daughter's room in soft yellow just because I said it felt like sunlight. But there it was. The address of a boutique hotel downtown, one we'd never stayed at together, one I'd never even heard of before. I felt my stomach twist, not from nausea, but from a gut-deep knowing that something had shattered, something that, until that moment, I didn't realize was already cracked. I didn't confront him right away. I tucked the receipt back where I found it, drove in silence, and sat through a parent-teacher conference like my world wasn't crumbling in my chest. I smiled, nodded, pretended. That night when Eric came home, I watched him, closely. He kissed me on the forehead, not the lips. He didn't take off his shoes in the hallway like usual. His hug was brief, tight, but only with his arms, not with his heart. I knew then that I wasn't imagining things. The next day, I called the hotel. I gave them the reservation number, said I was confirming a booking my husband made. The woman on the phone was polite, almost too cheerful. Yes, that reservation has been completed, checked out on Sunday. Would you like us to send the itemized receipt to your email on file? I gave her an alternate email, one Eric didn't know I had. Within minutes, the truth arrived. Room service for 2, champagne, late checkout. A note on the bill. Happy anniversary, love. Our anniversary was in March. This was September. That night, I sat in the dark at our kitchen table, the glow of my phone screen casting light across my trembling hands. I stared at the receipt, at the message he'd written to someone else, words that were supposed to be mine. And suddenly, all the little things made sense. The new cologne he said a coworker recommended. The gym membership he was so proud of sticking to. The constant texting, the quick showers, the guarded phone. None of it was innocent. He wasn't mine anymore, and maybe he never really was. I didn't sleep that night. I lay beside Eric, listening to the even rhythm of his breathing, the calm, steady inhales of a man who believed he was safe, whose lies hadn't yet caught up to him. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But more than anything, I wanted to understand why. We had a daughter upstairs, a mortgage, a shared history, birthdays, deaths, holidays, hospital stays. Our life wasn't easy, but it was real, or at least I thought it was. I stared at the ceiling until the first hints of dawn broke through the curtains. Then I got up, showered, packed a small bag, and left a note on the counter that simply read, "Don't call me." I didn't go far, just to my sister's place a few blocks away. Long enough for him to notice I was gone, long enough to make him sweat. By noon, the calls started. Then the texts. "Where are you? Is everything okay? Talk to me." I didn't respond. Instead, I logged into our shared bank account and started combing through the charges. Dinners I hadn't attended. Uber rides from addresses I didn't recognize. A lingerie store I'd never shopped at. A pattern began to emerge, and with it the horrible truth. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was an affair, months in the making, and she was winning. On the 3rd day, I came back. He was sitting on the couch, looking like he hadn't slept either. Hair disheveled, eyes sunken, a beard beginning to grow in where he usually kept clean-shaven. It almost made me feel sorry for him. Almost. I didn't say anything. I dropped the hotel receipt on the coffee table, followed by the printed email from the boutique hotel. He looked down, read the top few lines, and didn't even try to lie. His shoulders dropped like a man whose secrets were finally too heavy to carry. "I'm sorry," he whispered. That's all he said. Not, "It didn't mean anything." Not, "I made a mistake." Not even her name, just, "I'm sorry." "Who is she?" I asked. My voice didn't shake. It was flat, calm, like I was asking about the weather. He swallowed hard. "Her name's Talia. She works in marketing. We met at a conference in April." April. So even earlier than I thought. I nodded. "Are you in love with her?" I asked. Silence. "Eric, are you in love with her?" He finally looked at me, and I'll never forget what he said next. I don't know. Not no, not never, just I don't know. And with that, something inside me went cold. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and poured myself a glass of water. My hands trembled only slightly now. I was getting used to the ache, to the truth, to the collapse of the life I'd built around a man who no longer chose me. I'm staying for now, I said, voice calm. For our daughter, for stability. But we are not okay. You will sleep in the guest room, you will attend therapy, and you will give me time. He didn't protest, didn't cry, didn't chase me, because he knew he'd already lost the right. And I knew somewhere deep inside that staying wasn't forgiveness. It was preparation, because I wasn't staying to save him. I was staying to save myself. 3 weeks passed. 3 painfully quiet, emotionally volatile weeks under the same roof with the man who broke me. We barely spoke beyond what was necessary for our daughter. Meals were eaten in silence. Our once lively home now echoed with absence, not of sound, but of safety. Eric tried, half-heartedly, awkwardly. He offered to cook, to take our daughter to daycare, to fix things that weren't even broken. But none of it touched me. His efforts felt like a stranger mimicking a husband, because the man I loved, the one I believed in, had died the moment he whispered, I don't know. One evening, after our daughter had fallen asleep, I finally asked the question that had been simmering in my mind for days. Do you still talk to her? He flinched like I'd slapped him. No, he said quickly. I ended it the night you found out. Did she know about me? About our daughter? He hesitated, and that was all the answer I needed. The next morning, I made a decision. I needed to look her in the eye, not to scream or attack, but to understand. I wasn't after revenge. I wasn't even after closure. I needed clarity, so I found her. It wasn't difficult. I remembered her name, and a few clicks later, I found her company's website. Her profile picture, smiling, sleek, polished, stared back at me. The woman my husband had chosen when I was exhausted, bleeding, and breastfeeding. I emailed her. Short, polite, direct. Hi, Talia. I believe you know my husband, Eric. I'm not writing to blame you or confront you. I just like to meet, woman to woman. No drama, just a conversation. Anna, she replied 2 hours later. I'm so sorry. Yes. I'm free tomorrow at 1 p.m. Where would you like to meet? The cafe was quiet. Talia arrived on time. Tight dress, expensive heels, perfectly blown out hair. She looked every bit the woman I used to be before life and motherhood carved new lines across my face. She recognized me instantly. Anna? She said softly. I nodded. Thanks for coming. We sat. She ordered tea. I ordered nothing. I want to ask you one thing, I said. Did you know he was married? Her eyes welled with guilt. Yes, she whispered. At first I didn't. Not until that first conference ended. But when I found out, I didn't walk away. I told myself lies. That maybe you were separated? That maybe it wasn't serious, but deep down, I knew. And our daughter? I asked. Did you know about her? She looked down. Yes. I nodded slowly. The weight of her words hit harder than I expected, because it wasn't just Eric who had betrayed me. It was a woman who knew and still chose to take. I'm not here to hurt you, I said. I just needed to see you, to remind myself you're not some mythical threat. You're just a person, and now you're part of the wreckage I have to clean up. I'm sorry, she said again, but it rang hollow, because some wounds can't be bandaged with apologies. When I got home that evening, Eric was pacing the living room. Where were you? He asked, anxiety flooding his voice. I met her, I said. He paled. Why would you? Because I needed to see what you gave up a family for. Silence. I'm done waiting for you to become a man who deserves me, I continued. So here's what's going to happen. I'll file the paperwork. You'll move out by the end of the week. We'll arrange custody peacefully or through lawyers. I don't care which, but I'm done shrinking myself to fit a broken version of marriage. He didn't argue because deep down he knew. I had found my voice, and I wasn't going back. Asterisk. Part 4. The first morning alone. I woke up the first morning after Eric moved out to an unfamiliar quiet. No soft rustling of his clothes, no smell of his coffee, no sighs in the bathroom mirror. Just silence. Pure, clean, and hollow. I sat up in bed, the sheet still holding his outline from 1,000 nights before, and listened to nothing. It was strange how a house could feel both empty and full of ghosts. I didn't cry, not that morning. I made my bed, brushed my teeth, and walked down the hallway to our daughter's room. She was already awake, sitting in her crib with sleepy eyes and messy curls, mumbling nonsense words to her stuffed animals. When she saw me, she smiled, and in that smile I saw my reason. She didn't need to know that Daddy wasn't coming back today, or that Mommy had barely slept, or that our home was now missing a person. All she needed was my arms, and I gave them to her. People think the hardest part about betrayal is the moment you find out. It's not. It's the after. The days you wake up and have to keep going, pretending to be whole when every step feels like walking through glass. The emails you still have to answer, the food you still have to cook, the tiny socks you still have to fold. That week, I returned to work. I told no one. Not yet. My office was still decorated with a picture of our family, smiling, arms around each other before I knew. I let it stay there. Let it remind me of what I believed in, not as a wound, but as proof that I could love deeply, even if I was the only one who did. I started making lists, cleaning drawers, folding his old shirts into donation boxes. There was something sacred about the act of reclaiming space. Every item removed made room for something else, something mine. One afternoon, while sorting the bookshelves, I found a journal I hadn't opened in years, my old writing journal. The one I kept before marriage consumed my time, and motherhood reshaped my identity. I flipped through pages filled with thoughts, fragments, poems, me, raw and unfiltered, and something inside me cracked open. That night, after putting my daughter to sleep, I sat down with that journal and began to write again. Not about him, not about her, but about me, my grief, my strength, my rediscovery. It didn't feel like healing yet, but it felt like beginning. I wasn't naive anymore. I didn't believe healing came in waves. It came in whispers, in moments when you noticed the silence wasn't unbearable anymore, in mornings when the bed felt yours, in coffee sipped in peace, in the mirror where your eyes began to look less lost. And every day I reminded myself he may have broken our marriage, but he didn't break me. Asterisk. Part 5. Her name wasn't the last chapter. 6 months passed. 6 months since the text messages, the lie unraveled, the suitcase zipped shut, and the door slammed behind Eric. I had marked the time not by calendar days, but by milestones. First daycare drop-off alone. First dinner just me and Sophie. First night I laughed, really laughed, without feeling guilty. The woman he left me for? Her name stopped haunting me. She wasn't the villain of every thought anymore, just a symptom, a reflection of the cracks I didn't see in us. I didn't forgive, not really, but I also stopped letting her shadow follow me from room to room. I had bigger things to carry, like rebuilding a life. I started going out again. Not dating, not yet, but dinners with friends, a book club, long walks with Sophie bundled in a stroller, her curls wild in the wind. One evening at a neighborhood park, as she played in the sand, a man sat beside me on the bench. Tall, kind eyes, a little awkward. He was there with his nephew. We exchanged small talk, just enough to smile, enough to remind me I was still a woman, not just a scarred heart in a mother's body. He didn't ask for my number, but when we ran into each other again a week later, he remembered Sophie's name, and that was enough to make something in me flutter. At home, I removed the last of Eric's things from the hallway closet, not in anger, not as revenge, but with grace. My life no longer had space for what wasn't mine anymore. I turned that closet into a writing nook. Tiny desk, warm lamp, shelves for journals and favorite books. My sanctuary. Every night after Sophie fell asleep, I would sit and write, pour the pain out, let the story bleed through my fingers. And slowly, it stopped being his story. It became mine. One Friday night, months later, I found an email from Eric. Just a few lines. He was sorry. He missed his daughter. He wanted to know if he could see her. I sat with it for hours, not because I missed him, but because Sophie would always have him in her blood, no matter how much I wanted to protect her from his betrayal. Eventually I wrote back, calm, clear, boundaried. He could see her, but I would be there too. I wasn't the woman who once trusted blindly. I was the woman who survived betrayal and learned to protect what mattered. I don't know where the future will lead me, but I know this. Betrayal didn't break me. It revealed me. And somewhere in all that wreckage, I found the woman I'd buried beneath love, marriage, and sacrifice. I found her, and she's never leaving again. End of story.